What's up, everybody? Happy New Year. Welcome back to the Leveled Up Life podcast. It's Branamier, Courtney, as always, in the studio with Paul McLain.
My man.
Ashley Bonk on the ones and twos.
Let's go.
We're so thankful to be back in the studio, and it is going to be an incredible year. It is, whenever you're watching this, today it's what, January something. It's a good day in January.
We don't want to timestamp it just in case we need to put this in the hopper.
It's a good day to have a good day is what we're saying. And man, I just believe that if you're on here, it's because you want to have a good year. You want to get better. You want to grow in every area of your life, whether that's faith, family, fitness, finance, franchise. I know we talked about last time, just like setting goals and having just specific targets to reach in each area of our life. And it's one thing to talk about it. It's a whole other thing to do it. And so now here's where the rubber meets the road. And I'm glad to be back in the studio with you, man. So let's give some value to the people.
It's good to be back, man. And I thought about last year and all the podcasts that we did, and man, I grew so much from just listening to you unpack certain thoughts and ideas. And I think that's one thing I would encourage everybody to do is get somebody around you that when you kind of just have dialogue and conversation, it produces a better thought, right? And I think ultimately that's what God wants is for us to have community together, to have good fellowship, because sometimes you need to have dialogue with somebody to have a new thought that would have never happened if that didn't take place. And so hopefully that does that for you. Today, this dialogue produces some new thoughts in your life. As we're walking into 2026, the hope is that you've not already given up on your New Year's goals and desires. But I started thinking we'll have these desires and goals, and a lot of times as we go through the year, because there's not any moments where you pause and reflect, you don't recognize some patterns that are really holding you back from getting to the goal that you've got, or you don't realize that there's some certain patterns that you could put in that will really kind of help expedite the process and stack the deck in the favor to get there. And I just know that when I look at any great year, typically it's a year that I would point to and say, I was self-aware that year.
Right.
And I think a self-aware leader is a leader that's going somewhere that can make impact and make a difference. And I just know for myself, the years I look back and say, man, there were so many lessons and failures and setbacks. That's typically a year where I had a lot of blind spots. I wasn't really self-aware. And I get to the end of the year and think man, I didn't hit that mark. Well, it's because I wasn't aware of my patterns, what was going on, what was taking place. And so really today we want to pack a couple different points that I believe are going to be really important and essential as you move forward, but also maybe that you've not paused yet and asked yourself these questions. And so you can kind of throw off the hindrance, you can throw off the weight early on, where you're a lot more likely to not get so discouraged and bogged down as you move towards your next goal, because it's uncomfortable.
It's good.
It's going to be a process, right? And so pattern recognition, I think, is essential. And see, awareness precedes authority. So if you're like, man, I want to go out there and I want to be the leader that I hope to be in my family. I want to be the leader in my business. I want to be the leader at the gym, whatever you want to be a leader at, because leadership is purely influence. And the reality is you're influencing people around you. What you got to realize is awareness precedes authority. And so what does that look like? Well, practically, really sitting back and saying, what are some different things that lead to the outcome I don't want? I'll give you an example, Brand. So to be just very open and transparent, there's been times where I could look at something that I shouldn't be looking at. It could be on social media. It could be an image of a girl or what have you. And I start thinking thoughts that I shouldn't be thinking and feeling certain emotions I shouldn't be feeling.
Yeah.
And so I made a decision, being aware going into this year, that I'm going to do a pre-decision of an eye bump. And so anytime I see something that doesn't reveal my higher level character, I'm going to bump my eyes. And so the question that I ask myself is, what are some things that I could start doing that increase the natural, the supernatural flow of God in my life?
Right.
And then what are some things I can stop doing that stop the natural flow of sin in my life?
Very good.
And so that was one of the things where I said, okay, being aware, I don't want to have any kind of that temptation, whether that's me seeing something on a billboard or something on Instagram or just, I want to make sure that I'm pre-deciding that when I see that, my pattern is shifted now, where instead of me looking a little longer and letting sin to be produced, whether that's just from a simple thought, I'm going to now bump my eyes to something different and get off of it.
Very good. Yeah, I mean, it's gold right there. It's the whole thought of once you know who you are, then you'll know what to do, right? It's like once you understand that I'm not the type of guy that falls into those types of temptations and traps. Well, if I'm aware that I'm that type of guy, I know who I am, well, then I know what to do, because it's not if the temptation comes, it's when it comes, right? It's not when if the storm comes, it's when it comes. And so if you know who you are, you'll know what to do. I think of, over the break, we watched Black Panther with the boys, and we sat down one night, and I always just, whenever we talk about identity, it takes me back to this one scene where he's fighting, like he got challenged. And I don't know if you remember the scene, but he's like losing. He's about to die.
Yeah.
And then he looks up. Like a cliff right there. He looks up at his mom, and his mom, they like slows down. He's like, she yells out, "Remember who you are."
Yeah.
You know, and it's just, and then at that point, he kind of remembers, I am the son of whoever, and he goes on to have victory. And I think that it's in those moments of temptation, of struggle, of chaos, whatever it is, if you can just have that one trigger, like the eye bump, like that's what he did. He bumped his eyes to his mom, and she reminded him, remember who you are. Like you're not that. You're different. You're set apart. And so I think you're 100% right. Once you could see clearly the path that's set before you, well, then once you know where you're going, you'll have authority to walk in it. But it's when you're unclear of the direction of your life, the foundation of your life, is when things seem so confusing, and you make decisions that you probably shouldn't have made because you're unsure of who you are. Yeah. And so I think, like you said it right, throw off all the hindrance that could come your way. And so if you know you have certain struggles, temptations, it doesn't have to be sinful. It could just be unproductive things. Yeah. Like I'm just a lazy person in the morning. I'm just a grumpy person in the afternoon. If you know that, if you're aware of that, then you can have a eye bump, quote unquote, before you go home. It's like, man, I'm always grumpy when I get home. Well, if you're aware of that, pull up in the driveway, put some happy music on, right? Say some gratitude affirmations out loud before you go inside, and see if that will change your attitude, right? And so I think knowing the patterns before you try to change them is essential to self-awareness.
Dude, think about this. Like I even thought, so for me, I realized that I'm a lot more creative and productive and like just mentally clear and on point in the morning. Yeah. Like up until about 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock, I kind of fall apart, right? Like I'm almost useless. Yeah. So I try to do certain things to get my mind back right around 1 o'clock, but I just know 1 o'clock I'm not nearly as good. And so I stopped doing important things at 1 o'clock. Like I don't have anything important at 1 o'clock. Like the podcast we cut is before 1 o'clock. Right. Important meetings that I host is before 1 o'clock. And now,
so if Paul calls you after 1, it's it's not you.
I got a full day after 1. It just is what it is. I had to fit it all in. But I think some people are different though. Maybe like some people after like 7, 8 o'clock, they do really well. Dude, after 9 o'clock, bro, I am useless. Yeah. Like done. And so, you really just got to know who you are by sitting back and just reflecting and saying, when do I feel like I've got the most energy? Right. And then even going back and saying like, what things that I do actually fill me up and I feel like more invigorated after that. And what things do I do, or people that I talk to that make me feel just kind of like drawn, right. Just really fatigued or just, not really excited. I just think, I can't remember where I heard this quote, dude, but it was so good. It said that oftentimes like life circumstances, people, situations, storms, it'll reveal to you places that you're stuck. Yeah. Right. And so it's like, you first got to reveal where the places are that you're stuck, and then you could do something about it. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times, we're just so busy going through the motions and going through our day that we don't realize that our day is throwing off all these clues of areas that we're stuck, and sometimes even stress and pressure will reveal areas that we're stuck, right? Like, that could be in a relationship. It could be in your marriage where like when pressure and stress happens, like what's the typical response? Right. Like what's a typical temperament? What's a typical attitude? And then when you look at that and say, well, that's the typical one. Well, that's an area that I'm stuck in. Well, then how do I get better? Yeah, that's good. And I think that it's I've always said like in business, it's a thinking person's game. Like it doesn't take a lot. There's not a big separator, but really it is just thinking. Right. Like thinking about your thinking and looking at where you're at, why you feel the way you feel, what it looks like. And as we're moving towards something new in 2026, I feel like this is just a great thing to highlight because you can now have this philosophy of experimentation. Yeah, that's good. Like you're going after a new thing, which requires a new pattern, a new routine, new disciplines, new sacrifices. Well, as you experience that, analyze it, right? Like have this philosophy of experimentation, and it's fun.
Yeah, it's good.
When you're actually experimenting and you're not just like, I'm stuck in this. This is just what I'm gonna do.
Right.
Well, maybe not. Maybe that's what you start with, and then you adapt and adjust. You know, kind of like we were talking about last night with the new men's service.
Yeah.
It's like you're like, dude, let's just figure out how it looks and we'll get back together.
Right.
Like,
100%.
It's too soon to tell.
Well, I think a lot of people, the scariest place to be is in a place of comfort, and not in like a godly way of comfort, because I believe like there's a godly way of comfort that God will bring into your life, but then there's also a comfort of the world, which is not what you want, right? And so I think sometimes we can get stuck in these patterns of pain, and it becomes comfortable over time because that's all that we know, right? And so it's like no one wants to live the same year over and over and over again, but you kind of just get caught in this trap, in this cycle, because like this is just how I've always been. This is how marriage has always been. This is how finances have always been. But now's the perfect time at the beginning of the year to go, maybe this pain that I always experience that's now comfortable in a weird way is not how I'm supposed to live. Like maybe there's a different level to my life. And so like what you're saying, Paul, is like now is the perfect time to experiment, to maybe God actually does have more for you, but it requires you to do something about it. Like he's not just going to come and rip you off the couch. Like you gotta figure things out. You got to try different things if you want a different result. Like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over. And what is it?
Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different
result. And so it's like, but I think that's how so many people live. So it's like, man, what a great time of the year to go, hey, let's try something different in the business. Let's try something different in the ministry, in the marriage, with my kids, and maybe there actually is more for you. And so I just think, again, self-awareness is so key to every area of life. And so,
well, dude, like I think a lot of leaders, man, like, and you've done such a great job at this, and I think I've done a poor job at this. Oftentimes, leaders, and if you're really good at, and sometimes some of the better leaders that are good at selling or what have you, will try to make everything conform to like the way they think and see things and believe things should be, and oftentimes that's a great like hold back and failure. Like in the church, you've done such a good job in getting other people that had different ideas and thoughts about the way stuff should be put together, the way it should look, because sometimes we're not the best at those things, right? And I feel like you've delegated and empowered people with their gift sets to take that on. I was listening to Craig Rochelle. He's like, dude, I'm like almost 60. I'm a grandpa. He's like, if I wanted the church to look the way I wanted to look, we wouldn't impact the people because it wouldn't look the way it looks. He's like, I disagree with the way it looks all the time. Yeah. And it made me realize, like, man, what am I disagreeing with where I'm like, I don't really agree with that, but I know that it's better because I got the right person to take it on. For sure. And I think that's an important thing for somebody to sit back and say, what am I trying to make everything look like me? Yeah. Or look like I want it to look. And so good. Oftentimes it's not supposed to, right?
Yeah. Well, I even think like you could be highly effective in one area and not in the other also. Like you could be extremely self-aware, for example, like you just said in ministry. Like I'm self-aware of who I am as a pastor and the way that I lead in that capacity. But in another area, I can be like, I'm still confused as a dad. Like I don't even know what I'm doing yet. I'm still trying to figure it out. And so I think identifying all the different areas of your life. I think, remember, we used to do like the journaling where we would go, what's my roles and what's my goals in all the different areas of my life. I think that's just a simple strategy for people listening. Go, hey, where are all the different roles in my life? Well, I'm a pastor, I'm a podcaster, I'm a YouTuber. Like I've got all these random things that, man, I've never even thought of my identity as a podcaster or as a preacher or as a father, or as a brother, or as a son, and going through all those different roles and go, man, I'm crushing it in 3 out of the 10, but these other 7 right here, I'm below average, right? And so it's like, man, where can I bring these areas up? And
that's so good, man. Yeah, I think like, so in a simple way, because I mean, obviously a lot of people on here, you've probably already gotten to a place where you've looked at your goals. When you break down like the leveled up life concept, like the faith, the family, the fitness, the franchise, the finances, for anybody on here, a simple way to do is like, what is your one goal in each of those areas? And what's the number one thing you could do today to move that forward? And then realize that you can't like get emotional about a short-term decision and make a permanent decision from a short-term outcome.
Yeah.
And I've seen this in insurance where the person, you know, they get a certain batch of leads and they're like, well, dude, these leads just suck.
Yeah.
Well, you made a determination and almost like this permanent decision that these leads suck because your 10 leads you called, the first 4 said no, where the reality is 6 of the 10 are going to say no anyways.
Right.
And you just had a sequence of events that took place where the first 3 happened to be those, which is not uncommon. And then now you make this long-term decision, so that prevents you from actually getting the result that is there for you to hit your goals, right? And I think that's something that oftentimes people do that are, and I've been in there, where you go to the gym and you don't see the result right away. Mm-hmm. And you're like, dude, this just doesn't work. It's not worth it. Right. So you make this long-term decision based off of an emotional feeling of discouragement because you don't see the progress, where it's like, dude, just be consistent. Yeah. Just don't get worried in doing well. Like, continue to do it. Or you're saving money and like all of a sudden something comes up. So it didn't make a difference, right? Like, you know, it is what it is. I was telling them about, you know, new leads versus old leads. I was like, the first time I got new leads, they were like $65. I remember being 20. And I was like, I'm going from the $5 to $65 because I'm going to buy my time back.
Right.
And then I got the same result, like 3 no's. And then I was like, dude, I just wasted all this money. I'm like freaking out, mad. Like, they're the same kind of lead. And I made that decision. So I think it's like month, I had to endure way too much activity spent calling dumb lead, like lower quality leads, because I convinced myself that the new leads were the same until I unpacked and said, no, I was treating them that way because that's how I convinced myself, and I made this decision, and that's what was affecting the outcome. And so I just think, like, really realizing that do not make a long-term decision based off of an emotion that's produced from a short-term amount of activity.
Yeah, it's the thought of separating your identity from the emotion or the feeling of the moment, right? And so it's like, but again, this is what we're talking about. It's anchoring your identity in something that's not going to shake. It's not going to move based on the circumstances, which is why our foundation of even this whole podcast is faith, because it doesn't matter what leads come our way or storms come our way. Having the ability to pause in that moment, which I think is key, right? Because our flesh wants to react because the feelings are real. We're not saying deny your feelings, but if you can just eye bump in that moment and pause and go, man, I feel this way, but I'm not going to make a decision in this moment, or I'm not going to react to the thing in this moment, will change everything. I think so many people, like you said, have made poor decisions moving forward because they reacted based on a feeling and it affected their real life for a long period of time. Like we got some kids because we reacted, you know, to a feeling, and God bless it, He could work it all for good. But like that's what many people do, is we react based on emotions as opposed to our identity, and this is actually who we are. And so it takes daily discipline, it takes accountability, it takes being around the right people, the right environment, listening to the right things, which is why like no one has the life all figured out. So you have to constantly surround yourself with the right ways of thinking. So when you're under pressure, the real you comes out, and hopefully the real you is the blessed you, the positive you, the encouraging you, the one that's calm and cool under pressure, not the overreaction, storming out of the building you, right? And so I think pressure and storms have a way of revealing who you actually are. So you got to constantly be working on your identity, because the world will tell you constantly who you're not, right? And if you listen to it long enough, you'll believe it.
100%.
You know, and so.
Well, dude, how do you, as we wrap up, like, as people are moving forward, and you know, self-awareness sometimes is, you know, you can bring it on by just spending some time kind of thinking and reflecting on your emotions, feelings, outcomes, and what have you. But also having somebody that can help connect with you, point out blind spots. Like, talk about that. Like, how important is that with somebody's journey and going to the next level and making sure that there's not a blind spot that's going to take them out? Like, having a person to be able to kind of highlight that. How do they, you know, put themselves in those positions? What's the benefits of it, and what does that look like?
Well, I think you gotta run with a band of brothers, right? You got to get some people around you who are peers with you, right? So it's always, we always say, like, you want someone that you're pouring into, and you want someone that's pouring into you. But then at the same time, you need some band of brothers who are right there with you. So I think, man, you got to find those people in your life to hold you accountable, to speak into you, because it's like a good football team or a good sports team. Like, they're not quiet about their teammates' mistakes. Like if there's a ball dropped or a missed pass or like a mess up, they're not like, it's all good, man. We'll be fine. Like we got the talent. We'll figure it out. No, they're like, dude, what are you doing? Get your mind right. Like figure it out. Let's go. And so I think that you got to have some people in your life that can be that for you and not get defensive over it. It's like, well, what about you? It's like, well, dude, we ain't talking about me right now. We're talking about the mistake that you just made. Like we'll deal with me later. And so I think if you can get guys around you like that who are running in the same direction and who are grounded in the same level of faith or whatever it is, I think that's one of the keys of life, right? Because feedback, it will reveal your blind spots. Because if you're driving by yourself, you don't always see kind of what's going on and what's happening. You're focused on one thing. But if you got passengers with you, it's like, man, I didn't know I needed to check my shoulder right there. I didn't see. There's so many times where I got over and there's a car right next to me and I almost got in an accident. And I'm like, well, if someone was with me, they would have saw that. You know what I mean? And so I think that's the same thing in life. And the correction that you receive really accelerates the pace that you're going, as opposed to, getting defensive and allow it to slow you down. So
I agree. That's so good, man.
Yeah.
I mean, like as you guys drive to your next level, like put the people in your car
100%
that can spotlight when there's somebody coming that's going to take you out, and then take correction and realize that, man, well, how did that almost happen?
Yeah.
Well, I was texting.
Right.
Well, like let's fix that. Like remove that distraction, because that distraction caused you to not be aware of the blind spot, and that person had to call it out. And so, I mean, it's simple things, guys, that like it seems so simple, but it's not that easy to go do. Like you have to do the hard work and finding a couple people that you can say, hey man, I'm looking to go after these new levels in my life. I'm looking to accomplish this. Do you mind being kind of like a running buddy with me as we run to this next level? Do you mind like getting in my car and driving to this next level with me? Like, what are your goals? Do you have similar goals, aspirations? Can we be accountable to one another? Can we have open conversations? Can you call me out when I'm off track, or when I'm not thinking the way I should be thinking, or behaving the way that lines up with my idea? Can you do that? And I think that's such an important thing. It's a vulnerable thing, right? And then you got to be open that you open that door when they give it. Don't try to just like, no, I was paying attention. It's like my wife. She's like, you didn't see that car? I was like, I did see the car. Like, what are you talking about? I was looking. So you're on your phone. I was like, I was on the phone and I was looking. I was just glanced down. I was actually looking at it, and realized that no, like she's telling the truth. Yeah. And I can't be defensive, because if I get defensive, I don't fix it. If I don't fix it, the next time I might not make it.
Yeah. So good.
And so, man, great podcast, guys. Make sure to share this, like, subscribe, make this one of those things where each and every week you consume it consistently. I know for myself, I sat back and said, what are a couple podcasts that I want to listen to every week that are going to feed me in the right way in the different areas that I need to develop and I need to grow. If this podcast is for you and you feel like you get fed, well, make it consistent. Don't just kind of hop on here and there. Make it a consistent thing. If one really speaks to you, my suggestion is to listen to it multiple times, take notes, but also make notes. Make sure you're actually applying the things that we're talking about and discussing. I know that when we hop off, I go back through it. I got notes as you're talking, and my goal is to not just take notes, but make notes, and then take those notes I make and make them make a difference in my life. So, guys, make it a big week. We love you. Stay strong, be steadfast, and we'll talk to you next week. God bless you guys.